Well, hello everyone. Thank you for being here and welcome to the Compass session, our second Compass session of the summer. And today we are very happy to welcome Bude, the founder of Tastermonial, who will be guiding us through a conversation in the intersection of food, data, and self-determination. I think, Bude, you will be the best to introduce your startup and company. A little bit about the Compass sessions. So at 360, our mission is to support health, equity, technology, and social changes through collaboration. And these Compass sessions are built for our intentional spaces for reflection, learning, and connection across borders. Today we have people from South Africa, Nigeria, Brazil, and it's a pleasure to have you here. So, oh yeah, and my name is Claude or Claudia for Brazilians, and I work at 360 Social Impact Studios with Chandler. And well, Bude, if you want to present yourself, or should we, Chandler, if you want to present yourself too, it's up to you.
Yeah, so hi everybody. It's great to have you all here. Today's my birthday, so I'm not going to be too much involved in what's going on today, but I am so glad that I'm able to join this conversation with you and to facilitate. We really put these Compass sessions together around people and learning experiences that we wanted to experience and I think Buddha has an incredible platform and has a really unique approach to integrated health, and I'm looking forward to hearing from her today. So not much for me, but I'm grateful to have you all here, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, so I would introduce myself now. So I'm Bude. I'm the founder of Tastermonial. It's a platform that helps individuals personalize their nutrition and fine-tune their diet so they can be successful in reaching their health goals and be the best version of themselves. So what do we have in Tastermonial? We have the software, we have a mobile app that's synced to wearable devices like the continuous glucose monitor, and we guide people through structured experimentations so that they can learn how their body responds to different foods, starting first with their metabolic health, which is basically their sugar response to different foods. So we work with individuals as well as brands. So food and supplement brands work with us in order to get the data so that they can create these transparent scores, glycemic score, how people actually feel about the products, and they get all these feedback so that they can market themselves correctly. So it's a really two-sided platform. And we work a lot also with the nutritionists and doctors that bring in the audience looking for this kind of solutions.
Great, thank you. Sorry, did I interrupt?
No, please.
No, so I was wondering if you could start with telling us a little bit about this story and your background. We work with many founders with 360, and people always have these amazing stories, and also how we are very interested today in knowing where this vision come from and where did this all start. I read that you lived in 7 countries and that you were also very in touch with ancestral food knowledge. So if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. So I can give you why, the reason why I started Tastermonial in the first place. So fast forward 9 years ago, I had my first pregnancy with my son, and that was when it was a triggering moment because I almost have gone from this world at that time due to the complexity and the complication with my pregnancy. But I survived until today, and now I have 2 kids. So one of the reason is because I had this gestational diabetes. That was one of the factor, and that led me into I start questioning myself. Why is it so hard to avoid getting into that situation? So gestational diabetes, if you don't know, it's the very common diabetes that happen to many pregnant women. And one of the factor was, of course, you have different hormones, your hormone change during pregnancy. But one of the key factor is I thought it was so healthy to juice the carrot juice every day. And I was like pumping all these carrot juice, drinking like 3 or 4 carrot juices per day, and realized later that it was just too much sugar, drinking those carrot juice in empty stomach. So that was my anecdotal evidence that now I know. But at that time, without the data, without tools that allow me to see in real time what actually affect me, it was just shooting in the dark, basically. And looking at the food label does not give me all the full information. So fast forward 9 years, I didn't start Tastermonial 9 years ago, but that kept linger in myself that I need to solve this problem about the confusion and the intransparency in the food world. And now we talk, when I say food industry, I think there's a big misconception that people have, especially in biohacking, in the wellness world, to say that all the foods are bad, which is not true. Because in the end, we rely on these food industry because we cannot grow everything in our garden. And even if we can do, majority of people cannot do, right? So we still need to rely on food industry in order to access food and even supplements. And so all of these products lack information that is good enough for people to make the right choice. And of course, it leads to even a bigger question that people who have money can afford higher quality food, right? But who can afford, it's not everyone who can afford to buy organic, to go to the best stores. So how can we make a bigger impact in the world, not just in each individual, but in the world where anyone can actually benefit from knowing which food to choose? And it's not always that the most expensive food is the best quality, right? So there are ways to eat healthily in a cheaper way, but not everyone have that tools to do so. And so where we come in is we think that in order to make this shift and impact a larger population, we need to start collecting information. And it's not just another food label, it needs to be the food label that say this is how it affects each individual. And it's not another glycemic index neither that we want. We want things to say, look, 10 people had eaten this product, and this is how it affects their blood sugar. This is how it affects their satiety level or their hunger level. And so that leads to all these big conversation about GLP-1 and how we can help people stop snacking and not having those sugar cravings. All of this big deal with the medication is because we lose sight with our own bodies and how we feel when we eat different food. And where we come in is we say, okay, let's provide the tools. You have a monitor that gives people real-time feedback. You have an app that let people notified or log how they feel, how full they are, and look at these the real-time signals from their blood sugar. Can this help people to reconnect with their with their own body? And would that really help them to really know, wow, now it registered in my brain that next time I should not be eating those snacks in an empty stomach. So that's all these information helps individual, but the score would go back to the food brands that would affect or that would help a much larger populations who may not have access to these tools. So that's the real mission, is really to collect the information and make this information available to public in a way that like can really benefit the public health.
Yes, and tell us a little bit about your team or how your professional background. So I heard you were a technologist, but did you have formation in the beginning that helped you go through these mindset or these questions and this vision? And how did you find the collaborators to help build these huge systems that you have now?
Yeah. So there's a lot of questions there.
Yes, sorry.
Questions. Should I start first with answering one of your questions? Do you want me to prioritize the one question first?
No, pick one. Please feel free. Yes.
Okay. So I would go back to my background in data engineering and the fact that I lived in 7 different countries. I have a lot of things that I wanted to share from the cultural background, that the cultural wisdom that at that time there's no scientific, well, there's no proper clinical research, for example, but somehow our ancestors already know how to eat different things to unlock nutrients, how to, like, for example, I give a very concrete example. If we're talking about trying to balance blood sugar or not having blood sugar spike, because blood sugar spike means you feel very hungry 2 hours after, and that leads to weight gain, that leads to you snacking, and that may lead to brain fog and many other symptoms that affect your daily functions. So why do we always eat dessert after meal? Like, why do we eat sugar after we eat meals? There's a reason, because if you eat sugar in the empty stomach, then of course it will lead to the blood sugar spike. So the way you eat different things have a huge impact on how your body function or how your body respond. And so taking this knowledge and bring this forward requires a team of multicultural team. And so our team comprised of people from Europe, where I used to live. I lived in France, Sweden, Germany. So our developer is based in Sweden. And then, of course, we have team members, of course, in America, in California, where I live. So we have Kevin, who's the young scientist, but he's actually Indian originally, who's been grown up in the United States. So he brought in both culture, the Indian culture, and he knows a lot about nutrition. And then he brings in his familiarity with living in the US. And so we have all these multicultural background, French people in our team, for example. So with all of these multicultural team, from marketer to the tech team, we discuss these topics all the time together.
I have a question, Bude, and this is very relevant to 360 Social Impact Studios. I see Stefan here. Stefan is also used to work with me for a year, and now he is the founder of Propel Earth, and they also have a large group of very diverse people. He's in New York, so I just wonder, as organizations that are here, that are hearing about them in this climate, we're in talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and all of them, the challenges that are, and impacts that are coming from people taking a step back from diversity and this multicultural perspective. I just wonder, as we think about, you talk about the value of these different cultures and how you want to see them represented, but I wonder, are there specifics that you think, you know, in your time that maybe you've seen products that have been developed by less diverse teams, or, you know, what's missing? Why is it so important that we have these interconnected perspectives as we approach this, you know, holistic health?
Yeah, so I would like to answer from two angles. So one angle is very general. Another angle is more specific to the success of different diets. Maybe I'll do the one with the success in different diets first, because I think that's very relevant. And that's also one of the projects that we're working with Stanford University right now, is really to tackle the cultural aspect of dieting. Okay. And so going down tackling on the side of the cultural aspect of successful diets. Okay. So if we're talking about a group of people who are pre-diabetic and they're trying to lose weight, okay, depending on their background, for example, a group of people from South Asia, Indian, right? So they're used to eating curry, they're used to eating rice. And we know that rice is like, they usually have plant-based diet as well. And the fact that you have plant-based diet, you automatically eat more carbohydrates, right? Because you remove meat from your diet. So you ended up eating more carbohydrates, and you eat rice because in South Asia, rice is part of the staple. So for these group of people, they thought they're eating healthy. They're eating curry every day, but you know, there are things like white rice, and the fact that they eat a big load of carbohydrates. If they don't eat enough fiber, it doesn't balance out. So the way they're eating and how do you say, the generic advice of a standard American diet, right? A generic advice from nutritionists from here would say, okay, eat yogurt in the morning, do this, like, you know, like there's a standard way that Americans eat that would not apply to this group of people because they're just not used to it, right? Like in Southeast Asia, for example, we eat a savory breakfast, okay? And the nutritionist here said, go and eat savory breakfast because it's healthier than eating sweet breakfast. And I would argue, well, that doesn't mean anything to me because I'm already eating savory breakfast, but I'm eating rice soup in the morning, right? And the rice soup itself is savory, but it is full of sugar in the form of rice, right? And so that being said, the recommendation doesn't apply. And going to tell people to eat certain ways that doesn't reflect their traditions or the way that, you know, they're used to, they would not be successful in dieting. And that being said, it just doesn't apply. And given that we're in America, I don't know the full stat, but in the United States, we are so diverse. So even though there's all these aids from the government that are removed in the, you know, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusions, but it will be transformed to other forms of support. So that being said, like, we cannot avoid, like, the majority of people here in this country is coming from all over the world. So it's totally relevant. And like I said, the majority of what you see as a recommendation doesn't work for each individual culture. So it would not help people who eat different ways. So that's on one side. On the other side, we talk about healthy eating. And healthy eating doesn't mean going on restrictive diet all your life, right? So there's a clear stats that within 6 months, 70% of people who go on keto diet would quit, right? In general, on average. And so it's not healthy to try to restrict. And when you restrict your diet, you lose a lot of access to different nutrients that are not just macronutrients, right? Vitamins, minerals. And so when it comes to eating, we should eat rainbow, which is diversity. And that is where the diversity comes in. By having a knowledge that is broad enough and learning about different cultures of eating, broaden up your plate. So you're not restricted to eating oatmeal every morning, like in, like cereals and oatmeals. If people can go out of their way and try different things, and maybe they would like it, then it might help them to swap the different foods that are unhealthy to a healthier way of eating, if they at least have access to those knowledge, like different cultural background.
I just have one follow-up question. That's about the timing of the eating, because I know at least here in South America, we eat very late. And that sometimes, like, at least for me, that impacts sometimes how I feel afterwards. And I don't know, as we think about, optimizing the food we eat based around the diets that will make us most successful. I wonder, is the time and the timing and like when we're having these foods also a critical component of, like optimizing our own, health?
Yeah. So again, like I would make a disclaimer that I'm not a nutritionist, but everything I say is based on my observations of the data we collected, and some of them are based on the real research and clinical study. So I give you a concrete example. So for example, in the morning, you wake up in the morning, and if you wear a continuous glucose monitor, you would see that you would have, in general, higher level of blood sugar in the morning. And that's called the dawn effect, because your morning time is when you wake up and you have cortisol that comes into your system to make you awake, right? And so that automatically raise your blood sugar at the higher level. And that being said, that is a time where maybe certain kinds of food would be better for you. Maybe you would have better sensitivity to eating higher carbs at that time. So you would go and you would prioritize eating higher carbs in the morning instead of later during the day when you're going to go and sleep, right? So there are different timings that could affect depending on the situation that you're in. If you're eating late and you're not sleeping right away, but you're going out, then it's okay maybe to eat bigger meals. And there's also another situation which is totally contradictory to most of the recommendations and most of the insights that we found. And I'd like to share this finding with you guys, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Go for it.
So I'm gonna share my screen. Do you see my full screen right now?
Yes.
Or is it half open?
No, I think you're not presenting yet. If you are, but I do see your whole screen. I'm not sure what you.
Oh, okay. So I need to click present.
There we go.
That's good. Yeah, so I wanted to share one of the findings. So maybe take a step back before I go in here. As I said, we work with a lot of food and supplement companies, as well as university like Stanford University, to run consumer trials in the real world. And that means we create these structured glycemic impact experiments, and we measure the sugar response to that meal or the food that we wanted to test during the 2 hours. And we take the area in the curve to see the full effect and calculate the glycemic impact score. Now, we also collect data like how people actually feel after eating those meals, like how full they are and how, what's their emotions. And so one of the experiments that we found very conflicting with a lot of advice is the fact that when it comes to the blood sugar spike after eating carbohydrate-rich meal, there's an advice or the hacks out there that suggested people to have the carbohydrate-rich meal with fat, right? And they said that the fat would blunt the blood sugar spike. So if we add fat to our meal, that would help to stabilize the blood sugar after we eat those meals. Now, we have run a few of these tests and with different profiles of people. And we realized that it's not always the case. So when you see this visual, so the left view is just like pure rice. So a cup of rice was eaten, and then we see how much it spiked. So it spikes up to 182, the peak, spikes 84 milligram deciliter in 95 minutes. So now when we the next day we eat the same portion of the rice, and then we added the butter. But for this person who's already in borderline pre-diabetic, so this person actually had a worsened spike. So their body respond with secreting more insulin and having more blood sugar spikes after this meal, even adding this butter. So that we are like, this is weird. So then we run more tests with different kinds of fat, like the olive oil, and then that was not the same effect. So when we do with saturated fat like butter, for this person, it always linked to a higher spike. But when we use healthy fat like olive oil, it gives an inverse. And so then we started to ask questions. We asked around these questions, and sometimes we didn't get the satisfying response from some nutritionist who's like, this is weird. But then we found one of the information from one of the well-known doctor who actually said for certain types of body, when you're already having insulin resistance, or you don't have a good sensitivity to insulin sensitivity to process high sugar food, then adding these kind of saturated fat can actually worsen your blood sugar spike. And so that being said, it's very individualized. And this is one of the examples to show that depending on the people's profile, the same food, they don't react the same way.
Great, very interesting. Thank you. Before we continue, I would like to ask if anybody has questions.
Hi, this is Nadia. Thank you for
Hi, Nadia.
your presentation so far. So I'm curious to understand a little bit better your targets and the end goal. Like, who are you trying to apply these principles that you are currently researching to? I myself suffered from the same thing you did during pregnancy. For the first time in my life, I was put on a diet, which is not fair. When you're pregnant, you want to eat everything. But I just want to, I want to figure out a little bit more, like what's the end and goal? Who are you, planning on applying those discovery, to?
Yes. So right now so because we are a platform and we work a lot with brands right now. So we work with both food, which is low glycemic food products, and the supplement brands. And so the supplement brands that we're working with right now are supplement brands with claims around blood sugar spike reductions, balancing blood sugar, so helping people reverse prediabetes, for example, or the kind of supplement or food products that help people replace their fasting or their meal. So these are bars, nutrition bars, or the shake, protein nutrition shakes that instead of people going without eating or trying to fast, they can take these products to fill in the nutrition gaps and to keep them full, even though it's not spiking their blood sugar or their body doesn't recognize it as sugar coming in. So so on that side, we work with business, right? We work with the brands. And these brands target people who have not yet a success in their diet, right? So that's a huge population. But when we target, or the big group that we are working with, or the users of our app, are usually women who are 35 plus, more about 40, 50, perimenopause. And so these are the group of women that are struggling with losing some waistline, and they're going through transformation in their bodies, and they're already reaching out to nutritionists. They're working with coaches to help them transform their be the best version of themselves, but transform their body. And they are put into these glucose monitor, and we said we work with these nutritionists that bring in their clients, and we provide them with the tools, which is a continuous glucose monitor, but also the structured experiments that are sponsored by these brands. Because when they go through the structured experiments, they're able to get all the full data that they can really learn. Because if they eat whatever they want, they wear their glucose monitor, they can learn, from some of the meal logs, but they don't get full information. So concretely, for example, we have this baseline test that we get everyone to go through. And the baseline test is basically giving people with high sugar products that would spike their blood sugar to the max, but that also give us a score to determine where they are in terms of their metabolic health. So if they are not responding well to those products, it means that their body is compromised. They're not releasing correctly their insulins. So then they need to go through more work in order to reset their baseline. So yeah, so the group of people are people. Some of them have problems like pre-diabetic already, but some of them have different health goals, like trying to be more performant, and so they would go through these experiments with us.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, of course.
You said you're working with brands and the food industry, which full disclosure, I am French, and I also lived in different countries. And living in the United States has definitely been a challenge when you start reading labels and you see sugar everywhere. Added sugar everywhere, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I'm wondering if you find like real collaboration. Do you find that like the brands you're actually working with are willing to push? Because I see this as a bigger picture. I'm seeing this as you have a certain target population, but food, available food in the food industry should be healthier in general. So I wonder how your principles can be then taken and expanded and influenced a little bit more, bigger decisions. But when you're starting with those you're already working with, do you see that the collaboration is easy, difficult? How much proactive you have to do to convince them to join your endeavor?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. That's been something that we've been struggling with on the brand side. because we can only collaborate with the brands that believe in the transparency in what they claim, right? And so there are definitely, it's not all of them that are willing to come full disclosure. There are some brands that come and ask us to do it in private because they don't want people to know yet until they can get the full results, and then they know that, okay, it's positive, they can publish it. So there's been a lot of pushback, and full disclosure, we work with a lot of alternative sugar companies, but these are alternative sugar that we deem that are clean label. So these are stevia, water extracted stevia, alternative sugar, inulin. We have even like natural cane sugar that has been processed in a way that lower the sugar impact or glycemic impact. So we have all of these companies that work with us, but the bigger ones, definitely, they do always have a healthier version that they sell more expensive to higher market. And then they have the cheap version that they would not take out of the shelf because that's what goes into the school lunch system, that goes into anything that is low cost. And so there would always be this gap between very healthy products, right? And cheap products that we cannot yet certify, or they're not working with us. When what we are looking towards to make a bigger impact in the future is to figure out a way, a business model and a way to fund testing those products so that we can make it much more transparent and we can create the full ranking. And that will come with collaboration with bigger retailers that can help fund these kind of testings, and that we don't need to go and get funding from each of the brands.
Thank you so much for responding to my questions.
Thank you.
I'll leave the floor to you, Claude.
Thank you for your question, Nadia. I would like to know, so you seem like you have enormous data and a lot of data to deal with if you think of the personalization, the type of food people eat, and how do you deal with this quantity of data to make sense into it? Do you have so you spoke that your target audience are mostly women, but you must have people, for example, Chandler spoke about people with ADHD, so how they struggle with impulse control. So nutrition, in my perspective, has so much elements, so many aspects to deal with. Mental health, you have physical health, you have choices, you have culture, as we spoke earlier. How can you, and then you have the university research, and you also have the more, how do you say, you work with industries and more with companies. How do you make sense with all of this? How do you deal every day with all the data that you get in to try to, well, make sense, if you understand my question?
Right. Yeah, so we can only make sense out of data that we categorized, right? So when a user goes into our app and sign up to become a tester for certain experiments, we would collect data on their age range, the demographic information. We collect, of course, we see their blood sugar, continuous blood sugar levels, which allow us to determine them into different groups of metabolic health status. So that information we have, but we would not have information. We don't ask information like, do you have ADHD conditions at this point? And so those kind of information we don't have yet. So we have not yet gone all the way to get all these full spectrum. But as of today, we're already able to start to see how the different foods affect different body types, different metabolic health groups. And that is something that we make sense out of all the information that gets logged from our app.
Yay!
And
Oh my
course
goodness.
Yes.
That makes me happy, Bude, because that's where I was going with this question. I think you asked a great question, Klausi. this data, I think, could potentially lead to the, well, it sounds like you're getting good profiles on a lot of different types of people, and that's the data that could really benefit more groups than just the ones with GLP specific conditions.
Exactly. And so that leads to our bigger vision is we are integrating many other biomarkers into our tracking system. So right now it's, of course, continuous glucose monitor. The next step is getting people to log more on how they feel, facilitate the way that people log how they feel in our app, and then move on to biomarkers that we can collect from our partners. So of course we have gut health, which gives a lot of information as well. And there's a link between ADHD and gut health. But we also have the providers of the blood test, at-home blood test, that allow us to get more full picture of that person. And DEXA scan, for example, to know the body types. As well as the brain health and many selfie biomarkers, including skin health. So all of this information collection will be added little by little in our roadmap system. And of course, everyone who joined the participant pool have the choice to either run the experiment just for themselves, or they wanted to share this information to the brands, fully anonymized. And that information goes back to the brand so that they can score their products, or they can get the validation on their products. But at the same time, the person who share the information to the brands get the rewards. So there's different options for people who use our app.
Great, thank you. And how do you see this? Because, okay, let's move fast forward. So you have a mission of, we spoke yesterday, of accessibility that goes much easier than clinical trials. And do you see any use of this technology and AI? And this is, of course, a little bit about your business model and how you can share this knowledge for countries that are struggling with hunger and malnutrition. So do you have any, maybe, I don't know where you're positioning your company into this problem, but of course, right now nutrition might need help in other countries or more in development.
Right. So in terms of helping people in other developing countries, what I do see is a bigger collaboration with big food companies or retailers who can really get us to test out all of these standard cheaper products that will eventually go to donations or going to the developing countries. The more we can test the products, the more impact we can make, and the easier we can get people to participate in the study. And now we're talking about the study with glucose monitor. It's expensive, right? A sensor is expensive. But if we go down the route of biomarkers that are cheaper to collect, so for example, selfie biomarkers, there are some biomarkers that people just self-reported. There are ways to reduce its cost of collecting data. But with this, we're able to put a stamp on the different products, put a score on different products, and use that to create the recommendation system, of course, with all these AI tools, so that could be useful for developing countries. So it only can have a bigger impact if the food industry or there's a way to score all of those products together. So that is one answer. Now, in terms of the AI is as good as the data that goes in. And so if you have the limited data and the data that is completely biased from clinical trials because of the limitation on the size of the trials or the profile of people participating in the trials, then of course the recommendation is inaccurate. And so where we're trying to come in is to tag, to label the input as much as we can. And what we find that has a huge impact is the fact that if we can make our app super sticky, that people report how they feel to different foods, that is a data that is currently missing. Because without that information that gives a full feedback loop, not just your biometric data, but how you feel, we cannot make sense out of all of these. And so that's where we really wanted to head towards, is really focusing on our app to be as interactive and fun so that people can play it more as a game. And all of this information goes back into the recommendation system that can help personalize what they should eat at different times.
Yes, I understand. Chandra.
I have a question here because this is really interesting. And you said that, testing some of these products is expensive. And I think there's, one of the core, values we have here at 360 is access. And I just wonder, for people that might be interested in participating in studies or getting a device that they might be able to use, how are there programs out there, companies that subsidize, pay individuals to use this technology? Like, how does somebody who maybe can't afford the traditional products subsidize some of this and be able to participate and access these really beneficial products?
Right. Yeah. So that's a really good question. And I have good news. So all of the trials that we're running that are sponsored by brands right now we sponsored people the CGM sensors. So anyone in the US can go and apply right now on our website and apply as a tester, and we will recruit. So we have certain numbers for each trial. We will decide which person we sponsor the device. And so with the device, you get for free, you get everything for free. And when you complete the test, you get $90, which is a coupon that you can use for purchasing other stuff on our marketplace.
That's awesome. That's good to know. And there we go. I think maybe we can include those, just a little, make sure that that's clear when we share this out with people. So that it's not something they have to pay for, but actually it incentivized. There's some incentives for people to participate.
Totally.
Great, Bude. Would like to ask if anybody else has any questions. If you are not able to ask through the microphone, please feel free to use the chat. We can wait just a couple seconds to give time to people. Okay, then, but what I understand is that you're dealing with a lot, as much as the science points, you also have a lot of ethical and transparency issues that must be a lot to deal with inside of your work. And I would like to ask, when did you fund Tastermonial?
Yeah, so I found Tastermonial 4 years ago. I launched the app 4 years ago, but really getting into doing these collaboration with brands was about 3 years ago. And now this month, last week, we launched a self-service Tastermonial lab. So it's at lab.tastermonial.com, and it's a platform where any brands, food and supplement brands, can come and create these real world experiments directly through that software. And with that, there's all these steps where they can send the products to our warehouse, and then we create the experiment boxes and we go and run these consumer trials for them and collect these data. And then they can access the data directly through the platform.
That's very interesting. And that brings me, Andre, who asked a question on how the gadget actually works. Do you have to wear it all the time? And how does it get actually, I think it's something, if you could explain a little bit how people actually use the tracker.
Yeah, so if we're talking about the continuous glucose monitor, so this is the sensor that is manufactured by Abbott. That's the brand that we use for experiments. And so these trackers are usually 14 to 15 days, depending on the model. So you put it on, you snap it on one day, and then you can wear it for the next 14 to 15 days. It cannot be taken off, so it's, you know, it just sit on your skin with a, it's not a needle, but it's a filament that goes under your skin, and that is where they collect the data. So they collect the data from the fluid under your skin to approximate your glucose levels. And so during 14 and 15 days to 15 days, you can wear this sensor 24/7. The data comes into your mobile phone, into the manufacturer's app called Libre app, and then into Tastermonial app in real time, right? So you see the curve, like you eat something in 20 minutes, you see it goes up, and then you see it goes down in real time. So you can track it for 14, 15 days. You can swim, you can do many things. You know, you live your own life. And then after 15 days, you just remove it.
Great. I'm very curious. I hope I have the chance one day to try it. So thank you very much, Bud, for all this information. Okay, let's say if we could finish with a final word or something you would like to share or a vision that you have, please feel free to finish.
Yeah, I mean
Also,
sorry.
I think sorry. I would also say the you know, how do people get in touch with you? How do people get engaged as well when you kind of you know, if they're interested in trying this out, where would you point them to? So final word, and then how do people get in touch?
Okay, so I'm gonna type the page that they can sign up as a tester. So it's a form that you fill out, and then we'll have all your contact. So apply to test. I think this is the link. So if you follow this link, you can apply and join as a tester. So that's for the tester. And for the brands or an influencer who wants to test certain food and supplement products, they can go directly to lab.tastermonial.com. And that's where, you know, they can look at the different examples, and they can just sign.
Thank you. And a final word.
Yeah, so the final word, I would say there's a lot of wisdom, and we didn't share a lot during this call, but there's a lot of wisdom from different cultures. I myself, from Southeast Asia, I grew up in a culture where now I see all these superfoods are actually food that I know since I was in my childhood. And I just feel that we just need to bring more of this knowledge to the Western world. We need to share what we know. And it's really hard because most of the influencers and people who are actually teaching this information are from the Western world, so they don't have access to these insights. And yeah, I'd like to share that, you know, this is something that my vision is where this kind of knowledge are further shared. A lot of the traditions can be proven. That's something that we're trying to do, but I think it's bigger than what we're trying to do. It's a lot of the collaboration. And so, yeah, so final words is really, I hope that we can find a way to collaborate with a larger group of people to bring knowledge from different parts of the world and share.
Here, Nadia says that she truly agrees. She has been really pushing for nutrition programs in international development to use local food. And well, it fits totally with 360's mission too, trying to build bridges between the global north and the global south. And this Compass session, thank you for everybody who attended today, are really intentional spaces for reflection and connections across borders. We have the chance today to be able to be live with people from all around the world. And Bude, thank you. Thanks a lot for all your presentation. And for people who couldn't get the session today, we will share it. And,
Thank you so much, Bude. It was great to spend a little bit of my time on my birthday with you, learning something new, and I'm glad I was able to make it back. And for everybody that was able to join today, thank you so much. And we're looking forward to seeing you. When's the next session, Klausi?
Next week. So it's going to be next week with Adam from Talent Foundation. So a whole other
Talking about
subject.
recruiting and best practices for job seekers, I think. So we'll see. But thank you so much, and we will see you all next week.
Thank you so much. That was
Thank
really
you.
interesting. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Ciao.
Ciao.